Now, I'm normally in a suit and tie with a sport blazer and all that good stuff, but today I am pushing some of my latest merch. You can go to my merch store, iknowgodmerch.com, and purchase your wonderful handy dandy hoodie. Stay warm in this North Carolina weather. You know what I'm saying? Come on. Welcome to Disturbing the Peace with Pastor John Amanchukwu. Today, I have the special opportunity to interview the Allen Mashburn. Welcome to Disturbing the Peace, Allen Mashburn.
It's an honor, sir.
You know, it's a great opportunity for me to take this time and to reflect about the many things that God gives us the call to do. You know, the callings that we have oftentimes don't come from us, or they should not come from us. They come from God.
That's
right.
right.
So God is the one that tugs at our hearts and he nudges us to do things. And God has been working on you and calling you forward into the political arena. But you're also a pastor, right?
I am a pastor. Been in ministry quite some time, like yourself. Some 30 years in pastoral ministry and on the evangelism circuit as well. So, you know, when you think about the Lord calling you,
Yes.
a lot of people, unless you're a person of faith, you don't understand that. And to be honest with you, it's not always easy to convey the truth about it, because it's a personal, individual thing that the Holy Spirit works inside of you and leads you to do. And I am thankful for that. I am not cut out for politics. I don't have the appetite for it. But I'll tell you, as you do so wonderfully across the country, there's never been a time like we live in now. We're in unprecedented waters as a country, and now is our time to stand.
And so as it relates to your call to run for political office, you know, I get what you mean by that. You know, politics can be dirty. You know, we never want to see ourselves as the proverbial politician. But in order to do politics, you have to do politics. You know, you have to know the nuances and all the things that come along with it. But you can do that, but also keep your character. And so, how did you know that God was calling you to run for a lieutenant governor in North Carolina?
Well, I can give you about three things. One, about 3 years ago, more than 3 years ago now, I guess, a colleague and I started a podcast, Carolina Conservatives, and we started reading the inappropriate books on the air. We got censored. We got thrown off of YouTube. We never took it to your level, but you have taken it, and God is using you, brother, and I thank God for you. But that's where we got into it. And then we realized that the lieutenant governor and the state board of education here in this state, and how left-leaning it is, and the terms of those board members are 8 years. A lot of people don't realize that. And I mean, that whole board of education has to be revamped. The second thing that got me involved in this is 2019. My father started to have a series of mini strokes and had to go into a 24-hour nursing facility. King Cooper's on the throne. He acts like Nero, the emperor, and he shuts everything down and shuts the churches down. Of course, a lot of us disobeyed that because we followed God, and a lot of us signed on and sued the governor, and we won. But my father was in that nursing care facility. My mother would go visit him.
You know, you moved fast past a critical point. That you were one of the pastors that joined on to assist in suing King Cooper. For everyone out there that doesn't know who he's talking about the current governor of North Carolina, who's getting ready to transition out, and we're going to have a new governor, hopefully Mark Robinson. That's who my support is behind. But that's another topic for another day. But you led the initiative to sue Governor Cooper to make sure that churches could be open, because you believe what about the church? You believe that the church was essential.
Yeah, I didn't lead it. I signed on to it and helped.
Okay.
Return America, Dr. Ron Beatty was
Yes.
one of
Yes.
those. In fact, he was the key of getting that done. I
Mm,
was just one of several, but the church is not dictated by a pandemic or a plandemic. The
mm,
church is not dictated by that. We serve the Lord Jesus Christ. And when you take that into account, we are to serve him no matter what. And he has called us to assemble. He has
mm.
called us. And that was the crux of what we stood on. And
Right.
thankfully, a federal judge saw that it was completely foolish for the governor to decree, and I use that word because it's exactly what he did. He decreed that you could have a funeral with 10 people, but you couldn't have a church service with 15, or you could have
Mm,
Lowe's open up and you could have 25 people, but what makes the funeral director or the manager of Lowe's more particular or more special than a pastor who knows
right.
his sheep and does that? So that's one of the reasons. But the critical reason is my
Hmm.
father died in the facility during that time, and
Mm,
we were not permitted to. We were threatened with law enforcement. We were not permitted to visit him. We got a call um, the day before he died and said, "If you want to see him, come up here. We'll roll him to the window, and you can look at him through the window."
wow.
And and I'm just one of thousands that happened to. And we were given 43 minutes finally after. I mean, we appealed to the governor. We didn't think we were special. We were desperate, and we appealed to the lieutenant governor's office. Wasn't Mark Robinson at the time, but nobody called us back, and that's beside the point. I'm not trying to make it political. I'm trying to make it personal. It is personal, and those three things just determined in my heart things have got to change. I
Right.
see where this is headed. I see where if we allow someone to take away our rights, which I believe are inalienable, that is, no man can take them away from us. We're
Right.
granted them by God. We're granted them by the Constitution, and I'm going to fight, and I'm not going down without a fight. And that's what propelled me into this. We started studying and praying, and my son started praying. We've had a friendship with Mark Robinson for some time. I mean, over 3 years. We love him. We're like family, and many could say that. That doesn't make us special. But my son began praying specifically. Never told anyone that me, his dad, would run for lieutenant governor. He never told me that until I talked with our family and said, "Hey, I'm considering this." And with tears in his eyes, that's when he told me this. So I blame him for for praying for this. But in all reality, God has brought me here. I know He wants me to run, and we have run. We've run hard, over 100,000 miles since last March. But I want you to know, just because God wants me to run, He's never promised me a win. I'm not cocky or overconfident in this thing. I'm standing tall because I love my family, I love my country, and I love my God.
What would you say to those who would push back and question whether or not a pastor is suitable for public office? How would you respond to that?
Oh, I've had it. Um, you know, I, when I sat down and talked with my deacons about it, I said, "Men, I will gladly step aside if one of you will stand up and do something and run." And we have Vietnam veterans, we have war veterans, and I wasn't joking. I was just being honest, And they said, "Look, Pastor, we see this in you. We see it in your heart. We're behind you." Um, I haven't always been full time pastor. I've been bivocational. I've been a welder for 12 years early in my life. I was a businessman, insurance. So I've signed the front of a check and the back of a check. Um, the point is, we need men of integrity, men who are principled. And being a pastor doesn't make you that, but being a pastor should make you that.
Mm,
Because we set our calling, John, you and I, and your father-in-law, and We set our calling, we settled that a long time ago. Our principles are set. They're established on the Word of God. They're established on the Constitution. I don't have to wonder or think about what I believe. I know what I believe because I have a biblical worldview, and everything I see is filtered through that. Everyone has a worldview, whether it be biblical or whether it be secular, humanistic, but everyone has one, whether they like it or deny it or not. So to say, I get that all the time. In fact, I just got an ugly email right before I came on about what in the world does a pastor have? Why should a pastor be in Raleigh? Well, we need somebody in there who will stand up, stand tall for the people, and stand up for God.
Right.
I mean, that may be a simplistic answer, but it's a truthful answer.
No, thank you for that. The lieutenant governor has what we call a bully pulpit, where they can address some special interests that they have, and some may call it even pet projects. What are these specific things that are near and dear to your heart that you will use that platform to focus upon?
Well, I want to go after the inappropriate and the pornographic books. Now, I didn't say that just because I'm coming on your show. You can go to our website and you can look at our contract with North Carolina. That is front and center in a 23-page document that we have prepared that defines all the roles that are set out by statute for the lieutenant governor. We're very serious about this. And we want to see those gone. In fact, I'm the only candidate that has called out the American Library Association, who is encouraging and enabling this garbage, this filth, and is led by a Marxist. And just the other day, they blocked me. The American Library Association blocked me on all social media. So we're heading in the right direction. Now, you can block me now, but as lieutenant governor, you won't block me then. You will get that recension letter of wanting us to withdraw. Now, I can't do that on my own. But by influence and bringing the Board of Education, of course, hopefully will be different because we'll have a different governor. We can do that, and we'll join the other 11 or 12 states that have done that. I also want to attack, and I use that word because we're being attacked. I want to attack the CRT, the SEL, the DEI that's all infiltrated in our school system. It's very important to me because our next generation, they're not being prepared academically what we're going to need them to be prepared to do. Sooner or later, we're going to need a mechanic. Sooner or later, we're going to need a heart surgeon. And we have, just today, I think it is, the Biden administration loosening the FAA regulations and saying that people with mental disturbances or whatever, or lackadaisical grades, poor grades or whatever, can now advance into certain jobs. That's ludicrous. So we have people who are led by corrupt minds in the corrupting society. And that brings me to the next point. We're dealing with good versus evil. Politics, as usual, must die if we're to see this republic last. And my children are very important to me, and I want their future to be bright. I don't want it to be full of decay and immorality and fallacies based upon this DEI and social emotional learning.
So the lieutenant governor has a seat on the state board of education.
Mm-hmm.
When we consider, and I know both of us have gone to school board meetings and addressed the pornographic materials and, books like this, Worm Loves Worm, which is a book that's in Wake County, a book that's available for children K through 5 that really pushes gender dysphoria.
Mm.
Who is to blame for this kind of material being allowed in public schools in North Carolina? Who should we expect to be primaried? Who should we target? Who is the individual or individuals who are failing to do their job and not address this issue?
The ones that are failing to do their job can't be primaried, and that's us, the parents. And that's across the board. God established the home. We take this back to a scriptural standpoint. We're both pastors. We take this back. We have to, because God has given those children to us to love, to nurture, to educate, to rear, to raise, and we're to give them our best, the best we have to offer, the best we have to offer in education. Books that talk about gender dysphoria and encourages it, and talks about all the masturbation and anal sex. I mean, I start turning red with all that, because that's not our best. That's the worst we have to offer. And there are those in government that do need to be primaried. The school boards, obviously, county school boards, but there again, I go back to the parents and citizens, because they elect them. I think pastors need to be more engaged, obviously. Church members need to be more engaged. The church has got to step up. There are people in the church that actually have opportunity, and they're more than qualified to run for local school board, and they could be on there and be the change, but they will not step up, or haven't stepped up, but they need to step up. It's now or never. And I'm passionate about this, because this is the next generation. We're not going to have churches if we don't have children that are reared in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And if their minds are corrupted with this garbage, this filth, we're going to have gender dysphoria on a Neptune level. I mean, we need to wake up.
Who else do you plan on pulling alongside you that's on the State Board of Education to address these issues? You only represent one man and one vote, right? If you were to become lieutenant governor,
right?
But who else is on that particular board that's allowing this kind of material to remain in libraries in North Carolina? Who are the people who have already been there, that are in power, that have a voice, but they're not using it?
Well, as you probably already know, the board is obviously left-leaning. The board needs to be revamped. That's going to happen when a new governor comes in. So to tell you who I'm going to rely on actually needs to come from the governor, because, again, it needs to be revamped. But, I mean, we're talking about a huge system here. Now, DPI, I think, needs to be gutted. Now, I'm going to get a lot of feedback on that, but, hey, it's the truth, folks.
Define gutted.
We've got to go in there and realize who is actually pushing this stuff, permitting this stuff, and is stifling the parents, and is stifling the concern. There has been a myriad of people that I know, and you as well, who have contacted their school boards, and many of those school board members, who are good people, in the minority, unfortunately, have contacted DPI and just pass that complaint on down, and they're being stifled. Now, I'm not aware of as to who it is. I know who the buck should stop with: the superintendent. The superintendent is in charge of a $90 million budget. So, I mean, they have great power there, and should be in control of that department. But somebody is in there, and I am told that it's very left leaning. I'm going off of hearsay from House members that have told me that they would like to see it gutted. But when I see it needs to be gutted, somebody needs to go in there and just revamp it. And what I mean is, re-interview if you have to. We need people who are objective and just have the intent of serving the public, serving the children, serving the teacher, because that's what DPI does. But when we think of that, we have to have the children front and center of our concern. And when someone brings us material that is completely filthy, that WRAL even blurs out and says it's not fit for human consumption, then It's time to do something. It's time to act. Don't give me the stupid argument. Well, we'll take the Bibles out if we do that. The Bible has no influence in there now. So the books need to go. And the people who are responsible for that need to go as well. They need to be fired.
Well,
So
I agree with that. Well put.
yeah, they need to be fired. So as far as allies on the board now, it's very few. The board has to be revamped. That has to be done legislatively. So that brings me back to another issue. We need in this state, we need not just a Republican governor. We need a Republican governor. We need a Republican lieutenant governor. We need a Republican attorney general. We need a good Republican person over there at DPI. We need a Republican General Assembly because that's the only way we're going to fix this mess. We need a team.
I'll be the first to tell you this, and I want to be fair and balanced and honest. I've traveled this country speaking at school board meetings now in 10 states. I plan to go to 20 school board meetings this year before November. I have witnessed, of course, people on the left who support pornographic materials and inappropriate books, and they label me as the book banning pastor. But I have also witnessed Republicans who were rhinos who told me once I showed up at the school board meeting, in particular in one state, Louisiana, I had two individuals there who were Republicans.
Yeah.
Tell me that, hey, what are you doing here? And had you have called us beforehand, we could have assisted you in removing the books. And my issue is this: don't assist me in removing the books.
Right.
Assist the children in removing the books.
Right.
You know, I at the end of the day, I can care less about the sentiments and the feelings of adults. I want to protect kids first.
Yes.
And so you mentioned having a Republican governor, Republican lieutenant governor, a Republican attorney general, right? A Republican House and Senate. That's great. But what I'm seeing across the country is just because we have Republicans in office, that doesn't mean that things are going to get done. Oftentimes we spend too much time fighting against each other because sometimes we're beholden to special interests and or funding that we have received through PACs. And there are some people who don't want to take a strong stand on removing filth from the public school system. Now, there's a big lie that we must address, Allen, and that's the fact that no book has been quote unquote banned from libraries in North Carolina or even in this country. Banned? No. Every book, that has been removed that was inappropriate or pornographic, those books are still in circulation. I.e., the parent can choose to go and purchase that book if they want to.
Right.
But what we're saying is, if it's inappropriate for children, if we can't say certain words and terms on air, on Fox News, on Newsmax, on MSNBC, on CNN, then kids shouldn't be able to see these things as well. So I want to position this in the right way and be fair. I don't think that having a Republican is enough. We need people who have the convictions, the right convictions to do what is right in the moment. And that is something that is missing. Can you speak to the cowardiceness within the Republican Party?
Because while you were just talking about that, it reminded me, I had a Republican come after me yesterday on Facebook just about this very thing. And they are in favor of the books. So yes,
what's their reasoning?
Well, their reasoning is that my child should have access to everything, and that's just a crutch. That's a load of garbage. You're exactly right. Being a Republican means nothing these days, and because everybody wants to have that term. Everybody wants to use the term Christian. Everybody wants to use that term. It's the most overused term I've ever seen. I've seen it on the campaign trail by people who they don't even profess Christ, but it sounds good on the campaign trail. But you're exactly right. We need people who are willing to have convictions based upon the well-being of a child. And here's the issue. We've got people in the state, in government. We've got people that actually vote that they don't even have the respect for a child's life. Yes, I'm going there in the abortion area. If you don't have respect for human life, then you're not going to have respect for anything. If you don't have respect for human life in the form of a baby, then no wonder you think it's fine for a child to be exposed to this. This is why we need people who are full of convictions, have their principles, to run for office. This is what makes me so angry. We cannot get those people who fuss and argue at the television and say, well, there's that John. He's going reading books. Well, bless his heart. I'm for him. I'm 100% behind him. But they wouldn't darken the door of a school board meeting for anything, for their child or for their grandchildren. That has got to stop. You're exactly right. The Republican name has been so misused and abused that people have hidden behind it. We have become a nation of cowards. We have become a nation of cowards. Veterans have died for us to have freedom, and here we are giving this up completely. We're not even willing to go and stand in front of words. But these veterans, men and women who've worn the uniform, they've taken bullets and shrapnel from missiles. So, yes, I share that sentiment. It makes me so angry. I'm very passionate about it. And you're exactly right. I'll retract that statement. We need people full of conviction, not just Republicans. We need people with conviction to run for office. And if we have that, we can fix this mess. But it's going to take all of us to be involved. I know I'm preaching to the choir, John, but I get very passionate about that.
And so do I. And that's the reason why I brought up that question, because it's a passionate question. It's a question that needs to be answered.
Yeah.
When we vote people in and we campaign for them, when we support them, we need to figure out first and foremost who they are beholden to.
Yes.
Because just because you wear the title of Republican, the question is, who has funded your campaign?
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone has to get funding from someone.
Exactly
and
right.
If you have super PACs, if you have PACs supporting you, someone is supporting you. And oftentimes the politician, the candidate, becomes a puppet that's dangled by strings. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't need that anymore. I'm sick of that. I'm ready to dismantle the structure of puppets, right? But the only way for us to do that is we must know that the individuals that we're voting in have already displayed the necessary convictions,
yes,
prior to getting into office.
Absolutely.
Right. So we need to know that there's been some true sweat equity, right? That an individual has displayed before they hit the campaign trail. I want to ask you another question.
Sure.
What is the blueprint for success in North Carolina?
Well, the blueprint for success is going to be long because we didn't get here overnight. People want to say, well, we've got all this DEI, we've got all this CRT, and it just happened the last few years. Actually, it's been happening quite a long time. We have to go all the way back to the Frankfurt School for that. It's been mingled into our educational system for quite some time. I think that a blueprint for success for our state and any other state would involve, one, a spiritual renewal among this nation, among the people of God, the church. I think it also has to have a sense of care and love for your neighbor and love for children, and to realize that the next generation matters. And then we have to compose that plan and put it to work and run for office and take our country back and start teaching academics and not indoctrinating children, and take out the inappropriate things. You mentioned banning books. We're not banning anything. We're saying take what's inappropriate and take it away, and allow them to have access to it, because they're not ready for that, nor is it suitable for them, nor is it morally right. But that's the blueprint for success we talk about. And we saw Trump win last night in Iowa. We talk about make America great again. We want to make America great again. We need to do the things that made America great to start with. And that is rebuild our homes, spend time in our homes, building our homes, mothers and fathers. We need to have a renewed focus on the nuclear family. We need to have a renewed focus on education. We have inflation so high, and I know I'm going several places here, but I have a reason, because we have everything going on and berserk in the country. We have people living off credit cards. We have people getting in debt. We have people that will never be able to get out of debt because they can't control anything, or they don't have the discipline, or whatever. We have got to get the houses of God to preach the word. It is a cycle that only works together. If we're preaching the word and we're having a family that's glued together and raising their children and educating them and loving them and teaching them the value of work and what it takes and the sweat equity it takes to make things succeed, then we're going to see things happen that we saw and we've read about in our history books. We've got to determine that America is not dead yet. And our state doesn't have to die, and it doesn't have to go down this path. So a blueprint for success is a myriad of things, but it all has to come to this, has to come to a head. We want to make this country great again. We've got to make the family great again. We've got to make the church house great again. We've got to make much of Jesus again. We've got to get on this path, and we've got to stay on it, and we have got to stand tall in our faith and in our country. It is the only way to survive.
You mentioned the nuclear family, which was my next question. What are your thoughts about the destruction of the nuclear family?
It's the bedrock of society. And that's exactly the bedrock of Marxism, of seeking to destroy the nuclear family. And if they can destroy the nuclear family, then they're destroying the foundation of the country, the foundation of America. The meetings going on in Davos right now, they are the number one public enemy, not only the globalists are, not only of America, but humanity, because they want to take every bit of our control, and the elite wants to handle it, and we're just to be subservient. And the way to do that is to make everybody reliant on the government. And that's just another way that they have destroyed the nuclear family. God created us to work for our living. God has a perfect design. And when that is disrupted, or when that's destructed, then everything is haywire. And that's what we're seeing today. So the nuclear family, the traditional family, mom, dad, children, it has to be made paramount again in this nation. It cannot be torn down. We've allowed books like we've just been talking about. We've allowed pornography. We've allowed all of that to invade our space. And Satan will fully supply us with things that will destroy our lives and destroy our families. And that's why men have got to be men, and men have got to be leaders and fathers, and they need to stand up and take a hold of their family and lead.
Right. I want to ask you this question. I'm sure over my shoulder you can see the NC State football helmet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a graduate of NC State. It's the greatest university in this state. Now, you can't say that, all right? You can't say that because you're campaigning for office, and you need to bring in all the Duke and Carolina and Wake Forest and all these other teams. You need to bring in their support as well. But let's just say, because NC State has the largest college football stadium in North Carolina. Okay, bigger than the Pirates. I mean, they don't compare. Bigger than the Tar Heels. They don't compare. So just imagine that all 10 0.5 million people or so in North Carolina, that they're in one stadium. Maybe it's an NC State stadium. Everyone's in one stadium. And you had 2 minutes, 120 seconds to deliver a message to this audience. What would you say?
Well, I'd have to tell them how important eternity is and how soon it's going to be here. And the only way to have life after life everlasting is through Jesus Christ. I don't want to ever, if I ever had that opportunity, I certainly wouldn't want to waste it on politics. I would want to tell them how to be saved. Now, it's up to them whether they reject it or accept it. But if that was the last 2 minutes of my life or whatever, or if I only had 2 minutes, I would want to introduce them to Jesus Christ and walk away from there saying, wow, I just was able to share Christ with 10 million people. And I just trust God that they accepted it.
Thank you so much for that response. Pastor Allen Mashburn, thank you for coming on Disturbing the Peace. How can people follow you and support you?
Well, Twitter has taken off quite well and grown for us. It's Mashburn4NC, the same handle over there on Facebook. Our website is www.allen4nc.com. And just follow us on there. John, it's been an honor. I have loved you since I have seen you read your book, read these books, not your books, but read these books in public. And I've seen your courage, your tenacity, and love your family. And it is an honor just to see you, how God is using you. I noticed one of your videos the other day. I have no idea how many views, but 19 million on that one. And I'm like, I love this brother. I'm so thankful for what you're doing.
To God be all the glory, honor, and praise for that. You know, we're doing a lot of work. We're going to 20 school board meetings this year, and I'm going to be rolling out some resources and some courses that I'm going to establish to support parents around the country. Pastor Allen Mashburn, thank you so much for coming on Disturbing the Peace. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. God bless you. And whatever you do, don't forget to disturb the peace. I'll see you when I see you.